I recently got a new tent and it's made from cotton canvas, which means two things. I'm going to be able to make repairs using our fabrics and the ultrafeed, which is nice, but on a more exciting note, I'm going to customize the heck out of this thing. My first idea was for an organizing pouch to store some of my camping supplies, tools, and personal items so they can be easily accessed and kept off the ground to reduce clutter. I'm using this heavy 18-ounce duck canvas for the inside, which matches great with the tent, and I'm pairing that with a green Durawax that complements the rainfly. I cut out my main pieces to 17 by 36.5 inches for the interior and 17 by 40 for the exterior. The waxed canvas panel is a bit larger so I can fold it over the interior panel. Depending on your needs, you can make this bigger or smaller, because I'm assuming not many people need to carry exactly the things I do, so my hope is this project will spark some ideas for you and show you some techniques on how to make an organizer that suits you. With all the fabric cut out, we can start making some pockets. And if you're wondering why I haven't talked about that black fabric yet, we'll get to that a bit later. It was a last second idea I had, and actually I had a few last second ideas on this project as I started thinking about how I could make this more useful for me. And that's the beauty of DIY. The project kind of evolves and improves as you do it. I worked with this mesh on my last project, which was this pickleball bag, and I was a big fan of it. It's actually one of the reasons I'm making today's project, because I thought it'd be a good application for this material. The only quirk when working with this mesh is you can't hem it, so you have to find a way to hide the edges inside a seam or with binding. For my pockets, I'm using 1-inch elastic as binding for the top so it'll be stretchy, and 3/4 inch grosgrain at the bottom since I don't want that part to stretch. I used a lot of this grosgrain on the project. The mesh will stretch to help it fit more things, but I wanted to create even more storage space, so I'm doing a trapezoid pocket. The top part is 17 inches, which matches the width of the main panels, and the bottom is 18 inches, and it'll get creased in a couple of places to create some more volume within the pocket. I'm still getting used to this material though, so you may want to cut these oversized and then trim them down later once you've attached them. I used contact cement for the elastic, but basting tape was plenty strong enough to adhere the mesh to the grosgrain. I sewed the elastic on the LSC because it has a zigzag stitch to allow for more stretch, but also most of this project on the fabricator. Either one of these machines is capable of handling this entire project, but I have the luxury of having both in the studio, and it saved me some setup time being able to use both of them. I found the position I wanted for the pockets roughly based on a sketch I made with some packaging paper. It was really helpful to visualize how big I wanted it to be, what type of pockets I needed, and the types of things I wanted to fill it with. Plus, it's always fun to compare my sketches to the final product and see if I was able to accurately create the thing I imagined. I was headed to the sewing machine and had an idea just before I started sewing. I was planning on sewing 2 swivel snaps and a D-ring at the bottom, but since I was using this grosgrain, which is really thin, I realized I could sandwich the loops for those hardware pieces between the pocket and main panel for a more seamless look. If I had done this with regular webbing, it would have been way too bulky, but this grosgrain is thin so it keeps a low profile, and it's still rated for 140 pounds, which is more than enough strength. I sewed the bottom of both pockets with black thread so it blended in with the grosgrain, then I could start filling in the gap in between. I'm doing Molle style loops with that 1-inch elastic, and Molle stands for Modular Lightweight Load Carrying Equipment, and you've probably seen something like this on military style bags. It's a pretty useful system to slide and clip things onto. I went back to the LSC since it had the white thread and put down 2 pieces of masking tape to keep the elastic as straight as I could while sewing lots of little bar tack style seams. I cleaned up the thread tails, then cut a piece of 2-inch wide hook and loop. I sewed the hook side right above the elastic on the right side of the pouch. I mentioned earlier that this black fabric was a last-minute addition. This is called Fibertex Plus, and it's a durable vinyl mesh. I thought it'd be a perfect material for a wet bag, something I could grab and take to the beach, lake, or shower house. I'm just making a simple zipper pouch and adding a strip of loop to the back so I can stick it in place. If you're wondering, here's the measurements for the pieces on this pouch. This Fibertex is actually really easy to work with. Basting tape sticks well to it, the edges won't fray, and it sews nicely. I turned it right side out and top stitched the front, which hides the raw edge on the inside and adds some more durability. With that pouch done, that pretty much finishes up the interior of my whole bag. So I grabbed the wax canvas and started working on the outer layer that'll hide all the stitching on the back side of the canvas and give the whole pouch more structure. I scored and creased a 1/4 inch hem and pressed it down with our canvas patterning ruler. Then I did the same for a larger 1-inch hem on the top and the bottom. I slotted the canvas under those wax canvas hems and sewed it in place. On the top, I added more clips and a D-ring like I did earlier and sewed them into that seam, reversing as I went over each piece of the grosgrain. One thing I forgot to do was sew a line to segment the mesh pocket in half. I had a problem later on with stuff wanting to fall towards the middle of the pocket.
Oh no.
If I had just sewn a seam in the middle, it would have solved that problem. I'll probably still end up doing it, I'll just have a visible seam on the wax canvas. I'd highly recommend adding some structure to your bag inside the gap in those larger hems. You could slide in some dowel rod, PVC, or the tubing of your choice. It's going to help keep its shape better. The only thing I had up here was this flexible ruler, which is somewhat rigid, and since I plan on wrapping this around the center pole of my tent, it should do just the job. The sides don't have hems, so I used more of the grosgrain as binding to cover those. Before doing that though, trim those layers flush if necessary. Over on the fabricator, I attached the 3/4 inch swing away binder and made sure the fabric was sliding against the fence of the binder as I sewed. After sewing, I trimmed and melted the end of the grosgrain, and then I could set a brass spur grommet on each corner. These grommets can be used to hang this up to a fence or a tree, and I can also use some S-hooks and hang more things from it. The project is pretty much done at this point, but I did come up with 2 other simple pieces that make this even more useful for me. I used some 1/2 inch webbing to make a paper towel holder that I can hang from one of the swivel snaps. And then I made a yoga strap style strap, dang it. Pretty much the same kind of thing you would see on like a yoga mat, just so I can carry this thing around. All it is a couple of rectangle rings in that webbing. It cinches everything tight and makes it easy to carry to the campsite. Now all that's left is to hang this in my tent and see if it can hold all my stuff. I'm gonna grow some facial hair and change clothes and head outside and see if it works. Thanks for watching today's video. Shop Sailrite for all of the tools and materials that I used. They'll be in the description below. See you in the next video. Subscribe! How far are you going?